Hello, today we're going to talk about factoring trinomials. Alright, this is the way I've always factored trinomials, so it's the way I'm going to show you. The first thing you need to know is about the signs. That makes a big difference. So we're going to review FOIL to show you how the signs work. It's the same two numbers each time, same variable, same number. I just have the sign switched. So this one right here is a positive and positive. Alright, so what should my middle number be is what we're trying to figure out here. So I FOIL it. I do my front, which is x times x. I'll try to keep doing it the same way. Then x times 3, then 4 times x, and 4 times 3. That gives me x squared plus 7x plus 12. Alright. So when I have a positive and my constant in my binomials, my middle number is going to stay positive. Right. So what about if I have a negative and a negative? And all this is about finding the middle number. So I have x times x. Then x times negative 3, then negative 4 times x, and negative 4 times negative 3. So when I combine all these, this gives me x squared, this gives me negative 3x, this gives me negative 4x. Those are like terms, I combine them and I get negative 7x, and that gives me plus 12. So when I have a negative and a negative, as my constant in the back, so negative 4, negative 3, my middle number will be negative, and my constant or my back number will be positive. Negative times a negative, positive, middle number is negative. Write this down somewhere, it'll help you out a lot later on. Alright? So now, I have a positive and a negative. Oops. That's supposed to be positive. Alright. The difference between these two is which one my positive number is, or which one the bigger number is. So whatever the bigger number is, that's the sign of your middle number, what it's going to be. So this one, the sign of my bigger number is positive. So I know my middle number is going to be positive. Here, the sign of my bigger number is negative, so I know it's going to be negative. So I do the whole thing, x times x, negative 3 times x, 4 times x, 4 times negative 3. So that gives me x squared, that gives me negative 3x plus 4x, which gives me just x left over, because my bigger number, the sign of my bigger number will always be the sign at the bottom, and that gives me negative 12. So, when I have a positive and a negative, my back number is negative, and my middle number is the sign of the larger one. So now if I take a look at this one, I know my middle number is going to be negative because my biggest number is negative, and it's a negative and positive, so I know my back number is going to be negative. So I'm going to have two negatives in this. So then I do my foiling, and then x times 3. Negative 4 times x, and negative 4 times 3. Ends up giving me x squared 3x minus 4x, which gives me negative x minus 12. And there you go. So the trick to this is just knowing what your bigger number is and the sign of it, and knowing where everything lands. Positive, positive, I have a positive, positive. Negative and a negative give me a negative, positive. Positive and negative, you always have a negative in the back, and the middle number depends on which number is bigger. And the same thing here. That's just basically figuring out the middle number. Now we're going to do a couple more examples. here's how we factor. So this is just reverse FOILing is what it is. All right, and I'm going to show you the way I do it. So right below it, I always put my two sets of parentheses. So what factoring is taking a trinomial and turning it into two binomials. All right. So how I figure this out is I have to figure out what times what will give me x squared. The only two things that I'll multiply together to get x squared is x and x. Now, I need to take the factors of 6. So 1 and 6, 2 and 3. And if you watch the other one, the other part, I have a positive and a positive. So what does that mean? My signs are going to be in here? Positive and positive. So what times what gives me 6, but when I add them together, give me 5, 2 and 3. And that is how you factor. All right, another example. Again, I have positive and positive. The first thing I do is I put my parentheses below it. Now, I need my signs. So that's a positive and that's a positive. What we learned is if they're both positive, these will both be positive. So now I have to figure out the other two numbers. So what times what gives me x squared? X and x. All right, now I write out my factors of 36. So 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, and 6 and 6. Now I have to ask myself, since these are both positive, which two of these add together? I'll split it. So which two factors multiply together to get 36, but then add together to get 13? So 6 plus 6 gives me 12, that's not 13. So 4 plus 9 gives me 13. 4 and 9. Then if I want to FOIL it back out, I find out that I have the right answer. All right, another example. This time I have a negative and a negative. Because I have two negatives, that means one of these is going to be a positive and one is going to be a negative. You have to ask yourself, which one is going to be the negative number of these two? Well, since this is negative in the middle, the larger number is going to be negative. So what times what gives me x? All right, now I need the factors of 20. I'm going to write it down here this time. So 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. And that's it. So I know one's going to be positive and one's going to be negative, so it means I have to subtract them. So does 1 minus 19, does that give me 1? No. 2 minus 10? No. 4 minus 5? Yes. Now which one of those is going to be my negative? The 5. And there you go. So x times x gives me x squared. 4 times negative 5 never get 20. 4x minus 5x gives me negative x in the middle. All right, now here's our last one. We put our parentheses below it. And we have a negative and a negative. So that means one of my signs is going to be positive. One of my signs is going to be negative. Because a positive times a negative gives me a negative. And we add together to get a negative. X and x. That'll be different when this has a coefficient, but for right now it's just x and x. All right, so then 1 and 14, 2 and 7, and that's it. So since I have a positive and negative, just subtract them. And 2 minus 7 gives me negative 5. So my larger number has to be 7, my smaller is 2. And there you go. All right, this has been Factoring Trinomials, Lesson 1. There will be more to come. I hope this helps and good luck.